Right.
Hey Neil, my name's James Masella from Movie Death Blows. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me today to talk about Duchess.
Thanks for having me.
So I know you and Charlotte have worked together a lot. I think two or three movies, The Reckoning and Lair, and now Duchess. How much fun do you guys have working together?
It's usually a blast. I mean, it's yeah. I don't think we do it. So if it wasn't, but yeah, no, it's usually good fun.
What's she co-wrote this and you co-wrote it with her and you're directing her with it. What's it like having her star produce and having to direct her at the same time? Like, does she ever want to direct also, or like what's that dynamic
Yeah,
like on
no,
set?
she's more than happy to leave that stuff to me. Yeah. So I mean, we with this project in particular because it was the first idea for a film that we had back in 2018. The notion of doing like a female version of Scarface, and I think I wrote the first draft then, and then we did The Reckoning, and then COVID, and then we did The Lair, and so it finally came around that we managed to get the all the pieces in place to make Duchess finally. But it was always this was the very first project that we kind of conjured up together.
Yeah, I did ask her yesterday, like, what kind of inspiration, like, what other movies inspired Duchess, and she was like Scarface, and I was surprised by that answer because I didn't think that at first. Like, I was thinking like, Lock, Stock, or Snatch because of the diamonds and stuff like that. But was it Scarface and anything else that you guys can remember or came up with?
Yeah, Scarface originally, but then yeah, absolutely. Lock, Stock, Snatch, Sexy Beast. I'm a huge fan of like The Long Good Friday, and then like other like 60s gangster films like The Italian Job and Villain and things like that. 60s and 70s movies, which I absolutely love.
Sure. I'm interested in Philip Winchester's character, Robert McNaughton, just because he's like the least British person in that cast. How did you guys come up with casting him in the role as Rob?
Well, I knew him through Strike Back. I'd been a big fan of Strike Back, and there was a point at which I almost got to direct some of that, and then scheduling didn't work out. So Phil and I had been wanting to work together for quite some time, and then when I proposed this to him, like thankfully he said yes. So, but I mean, he's fascinating because he's got British parents or British mom and grandmom. So he spends a lot of time in the UK, so he can pull off a perfectly convincing UK accent. But the character was always meant to be American, and he is American. He's born and bred America. He lives in like Montana and stuff like that. He wrestles grizzly bears and stuff in his spare time. So, he just seemed perfect on so many levels to bring in to be Robert.
Yeah, I
And
know him.
he's an insanely handsome, good-looking guy. So I was like, I want Robert to be the sort of like the anti James Bond is like, he's got to be slick and smooth, but he's kind of a villain of sorts. I mean, he is a criminal. So, but we gotta like him. We love him.
I was telling Charlotte yesterday when I was talking to her, I was like, he's like a superhero. Like I remember him from like Chicago Justice and Strike Back, but when you see him in general, he's like 6'4", 6'5". Like he could be Green Lantern or Batman without problem. So I
Oh,
was
good,
just
yeah. Yeah. I mean, he like does insane workout regimes, things like that, and he's a good looking dude, and yeah, he should be getting those roles.
I know Sean Pertwee's been a frequent collaborator of yours on Dog Soldiers and The Reckoning, and now this. And I love him from Event Horizon. Like my family loves that movie. We watch it all the time. Him as Smitty is so much fun. How much fun do you have working with Sean, and what's that like? Just getting to cast him over and over again.
Um, Having Sean on set is just basically like working with your best mate. It's just fantastic fun. I love him to bits, and it's a pleasure. And what I like doing is, I mean, this is the fourth collaboration, so I love bringing him back and giving him something different to do each time. Like, so he never repeats himself. Um, so yeah, this is another one gangster thing, and he just fits the bill.
It's never the same performance twice because I know him from Gotham and Camelot, and he was in The Invitation where he played a butler too. But it's never the same type of character. There's always some different
Oh,
nuance to it.
even in my own films, he's gone from a soldier to a scientist to, a witch finder, and now this. It's like, okay, he's best.
So I got to tell you, Neil, back in the day, I used to run a Blockbuster video and a Hollywood video. And the horror movie everybody wanted to rent that we never had was The Descent. That's what everyone's like, do you have The Descent? I was like, I don't even know what this is because I hadn't seen it yet. But it was such a big deal when we worked there that everybody wanted to rent it. And I know you directed that. So, I mean, how do you feel about that movie all these years later at this point?
I mean, immensely proud. Next year is the 20th anniversary. Hard to believe. But yeah, I just, amazingly proud of that movie and all we achieved with it. Who knew it was gonna, touch so many nerves that it did, certainly as far as claustrophobics are concerned. But yeah, I'm amazed. I never would have believed that, 20 years later, people would still be talking about it. But it's wonderful that they are.
I had much more hair 20 years ago when they were talking about it, but yeah, that was a big one at the store.
Yeah, I think we both did.
Are we gonna? Yeah, definitely, probably. Are we gonna see you work with Charlotte again in the future? I know she was telling me you guys have something cooked up that you're planning. I just wasn't sure what's that one gonna be about?
Well, we've already shot it. We shot it last year. Because Duchess was shot in 22 and we shot another one in 23, which is, how do you put it? It's kind of like a giallo slasher movie.
Right, right. All right, the horror one. Yeah, she was talking about
Yeah.
that. All right, now,
So it's stroke erotic thriller. It's kind of a definite change of pace. And yeah, so we'll see what's going to happen with that one.
sure. And we can't not talk about your episodes of Game of Thrones here for a couple minutes, just because The Watcher on the Wall is probably my second favorite episode in the series after season five's Hard Home. So I mean, did you know that was going to be as big of a deal as it was? Probably like one of the best episodes in the series when you're directing that, because I repeat the Alistair Thorne lines from that episode all the time. It's like this castle's never fallen before and it won't fall tonight. I love the guy that played Alistair Thorne.
Well, yeah, what I loved about doing that episode, especially the Alistair Thorne stuff, was the idea that okay, he's basically played a villain throughout the whole season, and now we're turning him into a hero, and that a real nasty son of a bitch can be quite handy in a fight if they're on your side. So I love that kind of weird dichotomies that they create with Game of Thrones quite a lot. Certainly going into that episode, I knew it was big. I was going to make it as big as I could possibly make it, and it was epic on every level. But I was able to bring a lot of stuff to the table and ideas for shots and big 360 camera moves and all this kind of stuff, which was fun to direct. And but I certainly didn't know exactly what the response was going to be. But yeah, it was just a massive adventure.
I think now with the Emmy nomination and everything like that. So
Well, yeah, I mean, really honored by that. I was up against some tough competition that year with True Detective. So yeah.
I know you've done some action stuff and some horror stuff and some stuff that's in the middle. What genre do you prefer the most? The action or the horror? Or like the dystopian one, stuff like that.
It's action all the way with me. It's like no matter what genre I'm doing, I want to get action in there. Like that's the common thread for me is like no matter what, there should be action. So that's the stuff. Action is the juice, it's like the saying eat.
The first Neil Marshall movie I ever saw was Centurion. But then I
Hmm.
went back and watched Doomsday because we had it at Blockbuster. But they're like, "Oh, you got to see this Centurion movie." And like, I'm super into like ancient Roman history and stuff like that. So I'm watching this, and like, you have Michael Fassbender before he's like super famous, before he's at the height of his powers. You've got Olga, you've got Dominic West and Liam Cunningham. What's it like
Yeah.
putting that cast together as a director?
Oh, I mean, it was astonishing. It was good because I managed to get like Liam back because I've not worked with him before, but to get the rest of them, there was like Riz Ahmed's in there as well, and like he's gone through the roof since then. I mean, just amazing, amazing cast. Michael Fassbender, I almost cast him as a bit part in Doomsday, because like he'd done nothing. He'd done like Band of Brothers, that was it. So he almost got a small role in Doomsday, and it was like, no, I'm sorry, but I'll put you in the next one, I promise. And little did I know at that point it was going to be the lead in Centurion because he was perfect for it, but he literally just shot Hunger, I think it was, which was we knew that was going to take him to the next level. It was like, oh, he's a great catch. So he got the lead in this one, which is the right move. And then surrounded him with like all this amazing cast.
Yeah, Doomsday is another one I really like. I really think it should have got more play than it got, but I don't know if people were.
Totally
It,
agree.
it's got David O'Hara in it. Anything David O'Hara is phenomenal. I
Yeah,
use one of his lines
another
from
amazing ensemble cast, getting Bob Hoskins and Mark McDowell, David O'Hara, just Rona Mitra. Like it was amazing cast to work with. I had a lot of fun making that film. I think it was way ahead of its time. Since COVID, it's gained a whole new following.
it had like a Ghost of Mars like and Warriors and Escape from LA thing going on at the same time. And I love that kind of stuff.
It was kind of like every 80s movie that I loved all thrown into one movie.
I got one other question about previous projects. I was there at New York Comic Con 2018 when the Hellboy panel happened. The trailer's there, the crowd is pumped, they're going wild. The movie comes out and it's just not what we all wanted it to be. And I was surprised because I mean David did everything he could possible. It felt like on screen to make it work, and it just didn't. Why do you think is the director? I know you've spoken about it before. Just like what do you think now about why it didn't work? Still the same reasons?
Um, the script wasn't great. At the end of the day, it's the one film that I've made that I didn't write, and that's not necessarily the reason that it wasn't good. It just wasn't a good script. It was an amalgamation of two comic stories kind of thrown into one, and relied on a lot of flashbacks, which is never a good thing. It just wasn't a great script, and there's only so much you can do, you know.
I don't think it was your fault. I don't think it was David's fault. It looked like the creative process just didn't come together the way it did. And I remember walking out of the press screening and I was just like, I don't know what to, I don't know how to survive it at that point. Like it just wasn't what we wanted it to be.
It's it's difficult. Maybe distance is going to lend enchantment to the view because over time I've had more people coming up to me, kind of like Doomsday, of like coming up to me and saying, "Well, I really liked your version of Hellboy" or something like that. So I'm like, if you love it, I'm happy that you love it. That's great.
you know, we
So,
we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but Charlotte is directing, I mean, producing, writing, acting. Do you ever see her coming on as a director? Because I asked her this and she was like, I don't know. I was like, well, you're only 32. You got to give it a chance. I mean, you're doing all this other stuff. I think you could do it. What do you think as her director?
I don't. I honestly, I don't think it interests her. I don't think that's what she wants to do. I mean, she's certainly never shown any interest in doing it. So I don't. I just don't think. Yeah,
Everything
it's
else, but this isn't her cup of tea.
too many early mornings and late nights. That's what it is.
I gotcha. Well, Neil, I appreciate you sitting down with me to talk about Duchess today. I can't wait for everybody to see it when it comes out on August 9th. Thanks again for sitting down with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Turn this recording.